Hi, my name is Dan and I'm one of the DT evangelists here at Digital-Tutors. In this video, we're going to look at a question from one of our users, 3DJunkie84, on how we can begin to troubleshoot a render that isn't completing. Okay, so here I have a scene that's been imported into Maya from the Sculpting a Realistic Bust in ZBrush course. And as we can see here in our hypershade, I have a normal map as well as a displacement map on this particular piece of geometry. Now, when we're rendering with a displacement map, it can be very heavy on our systems to compute, since it is actually generating geometry from that displacement map. So if we run into an issue where we set this off to render, and then here in our script editor it's telling us that the render is completed very quickly, it's likely that the render is actually crashing before it gets completed. So to check on that, what we can do is if we open up our My Documents folder here, if you're using Windows. If you're using a different operating system, then it may be in a slightly different place. What we want to do is open up the actual Maya project here, and then we'll find the Maya render log. So if we open that up, and we come all the way to the bottom to the most recent events in our log, if we notice any sort of errors or anything saying that Maya has exited due to some sort of error, we can start to begin our troubleshooting once we know what the error is, to get a better idea of precisely what steps that we can take to resolve those errors. So with that in mind, let's just go over real quickly one of the very common reasons for MentalRay crashing is that it actually runs out of memory. So we can actually set that if we come to our rendering menu set, go to render and batch render. If you open up the option box, you can see by default it's set to an auto memory limit. So basically it's going to try to automatically determine how much memory to use when it renders. So if we find that MentalRay is running out of memory and causing a crash, we can actually uncheck this and then manually set a limit for MentalRay. So say if we had something like 4 gigs on our system, we might want to put in something like 2048 or 2 gigs worth of RAM here. So that way, MentalRay will, once it hits this limit, it won't go any higher and shouldn't crash. Now, it is important to keep in mind that it may take longer to render, but if we do have the issue where MentalRay is actually running out of memory, then setting the memory limit here should help that issue. So that's a look at how we can check our render log to look for any errors to begin our troubleshooting, as well as how we can go ahead and set up a manual amount of RAM for MentalRay to use when we render. Now, if you want to learn some more in-depth ways of how we can optimize our renders to both help eliminate crashing as well as improve overall performance, check out the MentalRay Tips and Tricks course.